Okay, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. This is Grant Cameron, and I have a special guest today, my friend Rob Freeman. And we've spent 10 days with Rob and Wendy Gallant and Mark McNabb, and they're here in Manitoba doing UFO filming. And during that period of time, Rob told a couple of very interesting stories on his background and what he's done in his life. And we want to do one about a new potential cure to a lot of different disease. And so I asked Rob to do this interview, and we'll go through how this started. So describe what medicine we're talking about here, how you got involved, and then my assistant Desta Barnaby is here, and she's very much into this subject. So I think a lot of the questions will come from Desta in terms of how it works and stuff. So start, I guess, with the background of how you got involved in this, your experience, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So basically what this is, Grant, is it's a potential preventable solution for the COVID-19, the coronavirus. Really, in a nutshell, we'll get into it further in the interview. It's a treatment, it's not a vaccine, it's a therapeutic. So basically it strengthens the innate part of your immune system, and that's the frontline part of your immune system when there's a threat that comes in. For example, with the coronavirus coming in through your lungs, this would cause the innate immune system in your lungs to increase major, and therefore the coronavirus wouldn't get past your lungs. It would be sort of killed on the spot right there. It's really the idea that as a young person, your innate immune system, as well as your adaptive immune system, is very strong, but as we age, it gets weaker and weaker and weaker. So what we're doing for the vulnerable people and aged people, people also with comorbidities like other issues, we're bringing their immune system, we're allowing their body to bring its immune system right back to, say, the age of 12.
How does that differ from, like, the other, say, using a vaccine in terms of what kind of immune stuff are they looking at?
Yeah, so the vaccines, they're very specific. So, for example, the flu vaccine, it's annual because the flu mutates. And you notice some years they're not correct in what they guess that the existing flu is going to be in your area. So you wind up taking a vaccine that's ineffective, okay, and you wind up getting the flu anyway. Other years, they get it bang on. So it's always a guesstimate. They have to produce it and get things going months and months in advance. So they'll look at one part of the world and see what's the prevalent flu strain there, and then they think that that will come over to our part of the world. So they develop a vaccine that's effective for that, but it's anybody's guess what's going to happen. And every year, of course, it changes, so they have to develop a new one. With this treatment, with this, what we have, where it builds your immune system, this technology, this treatment, it really is against anything coming into your lungs.
And so how does this start for you? How do you find this?
Yeah, so this is a treatment from Biologics, and I co-founded it with Dr. Gunn. I went through cancer myself from 1999 through 2001, and it was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And at the time, my wife, she had medical issues, and we didn't know if she was going to live. And then I came down with cancer, and I thought, oh my God, my boys, who were, gosh, I'm going to say that they were roughly about 10 years old, 11 years old. And I thought, within months, they could be left with without both parents. And I thought, there's no way. I have to do everything in my power. And I had just sold my company, London Telecom, for a lot of money. So I had the time and the money and the will to go around the world looking for cutting-edge treatments. And, you know, it brought me right back to Canada and to Dr. Gunn in Vancouver, and he helped me with treatment that he was working on, and that slowed my cancer down. And you know, when I had the effect of that, I thought, man, I want to be involved with this. And I asked him, I said, are you, looking to set up a company? Are you looking to, go bigger with this? And do you need an investor? And he said, potentially. I mean, I was actually his patient, so he could not solicit me. And so that's why he said maybe. And I had to sign a consent form saying I'm no longer his patient, which I wasn't at this time. And then we went forward and started the company. I invested money.
What was his background in terms of what was he working on it?
Yeah, Dr. Gunn was a GP, and he ran it was called the Center for Integrated Healing. It's now called Inspire Health. And he brought in a lot of things, you might call them more softer, like it was things around your diet. At that center they would even get into things like dream therapy, art therapy.
Okay.
Like, and he also had the first generation SSI, okay, which I took. And they were really looking at things to kind of support your cancer. In other words, there's a lot of theories that say if you're under stress, you know, whether it's an emotional, physical stress, that if you're prone to getting cancer, if there's cancer cells that normally your immune system would kill off, under periods of stress, that doesn't happen, or it happens very effectively, so your, you know, potential cancer could get going. So at the Center for Integrated Healing, they were looking at all the issues around your cancer. Okay, is this person nourishing themselves properly, or do they have very bad eating habits? You know, they're not getting their proper vitamins, they're not getting their proper, all the things that are good in food. You know, are they getting the proper sleep? So I spent time there when I was going through my cancer and learned an awful lot. And I would actually go from there and would go traveling around the world seeking out other treatments as well. But the bottom line is you know, coming back, he had a therapeutic treatment. It was the first generation SSI, site-specific immunotherapy treatment, and I took it and my cancer slowed down. So during that time period, it gave me a chance to continue looking for cutting-edge treatments, and I did take traditional chemo and radiation, and I was a textbook case.
Yeah.
The cancer disappeared, and there was a brand new medicine just coming on, so I had bought myself time, you know, 3 years basically, and at the end of that 3 years, a brand new treatment called Rituxan had come online, and it was going to be coming into Canada. It was approved in the US, and my doctor actually prescribed it for me, and it wasn't available in Canada yet, but because he had prescribed it for me, my health plan, my private health plan, was able to pay for it. It was like $70,000 for 4 small little vials. Wow. And the treatments were taken every week. You know, it was an infusion. You had to sit in a chair with a needle and take an infusion, right? And that was like a mop-up therapy. So after getting rid of the bulk of the cancer with the chemo and the radiation, I mean, that's supposed to get rid of it all. But this other treatment, what it actually does is it's almost like putting little flags in the cancer cells.
That's the SSI thing. Can you
No,
elaborate?
no, this was the conventional treatment.
Okay, okay.
And that, yeah, the SSI slowed my cancer down.
Yeah.
Okay, caused my immune system to go at it aggressively. And the chemo and radiation likely got all the cancer, but everybody knows, can you be sure? You know, we hear of many examples of cancers coming back. But because I had bought time by taking the SSI, the first generation, it took me a 3-year period. At the end of the 3-year period, a brand new treatment had come online called Rituxan. And it has the effect of planting flags in the cancer cells, and then the immune system says, what's this? And it attacks those cells now that it can identify them, right? So the Q treatment, once again, it's the first generation, and because I was able to take that under Dr. Gunn at Inspire Health, that gave me extra time to actually take a conventional treatment that wasn't approved in Canada yet. I was able to get it in the States, and because the doctor wrote a prescription, my Canadian private health insurance would pay for it. It was quite expensive.
Okay, so you started using this material, and we had earlier discussions where you talked about some of the other things that was discovered that it may be useful for. Can you get into that and how it applied to what you were taking it for?
Yes, so basically how it works is it's killed bacteria or inactivated bacteria. And this has actually been known since the late 1800s under Dr. Coley. And people can Google that. And he was kind of thrown out of the hospital where he did all his research because they didn't know too much then, and they thought it was like almost like voodoo medicine. Okay, but he's the actual grandfather of all this stuff, Dr. Coley. And he had Coley's toxins. And he was curing cancer back in the late 1800s, but it was hit and miss, and he didn't know the exact, what was going on here. Okay, Dr. Gunn has discovered the actual mechanism of action of why specific bacteria can be very helpful in causing your immune system to clear specific illnesses in specific organs. So the idea is, for example, if you have been exposed to different bacteria during your life, let's use the example of E. coli. E. coli likes to attack the colon. And let's supposing that you, I'm not sure if it's lettuce or something where you might get E. coli, infection, and just a minor one. So, and it tries to set up shop in your colon. You may not feel well that night. I'm going to bed, I'll feel better in the morning. And sure enough, your immune system clears it. Overnight, you feel great the next day. Okay, so in your colon, the immune system now knows that pathogen. It knows the E. coli. So next time you get an E. coli infection, what it will do in your colon only, it will ramp up the innate immune system by many, many times. So here's where it's important with illnesses like cancer. If you get colon cancer, then what you do is you give the person the therapeutic SSI, the E. coli. It's killed E. coli, and right away when you take it, the body's immune system says, last time that came, it was the colon, so we're going to go there only, and that's why it's site-specific immunotherapy. We're going to go to that site of the body, and we're going to ramp up the innate immune system. So if the cancer tries to get going, cancer is hard to detect in the body. The immune system has a tough time. It kind of looks right past it a lot of times. But if the immune system is very much stronger, then even though it's not that effective with cancer, if you've got a huge, really strong immune system, then you will get the cancer. Now, it's no guarantee that the treatment can kill all cancers and be 100% effective. What we've seen is like a bell curve of distribution. You have a certain number of people that, yes, will get full-blown remissions with their cancer, completely gone. So that's on this side of the bell curve, right? You have the main part of the bell curve where it slows the cancer down, and that's what it did in my case. Okay, and then you have a few people on this side that there's no effect. Because how I discovered this is I was in Vancouver taking my very last treatment, or I shouldn't say last treatment, I did a follow-up every year. And I was going back to my hotel from the cancer center, and I was walking right by Dr. Gunn's office, his building, and I saw him in his window, so I thought I would stop in. It was my last follow-up about 3 years after my cancer was gone, or 4 years, I can't remember now. And I said, "What are you up to?" And he said, "I'm working on a cancer." I don't know if he used the word cure, but he said a cancer medicine. And that's when he told me all about it. And he had pulled out research from his drawer that high, plopped it on his desk, and he said, "These are people who had exactly what you had, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and who inadvertently picked up an infection, and their cancer disappeared." And I thought, oh my God, this guy's going to have the cure for cancer. And I said, well, how come mine didn't go into full remission? He said, that's what we're trying to understand. It's a bell curve distribution. I was in the middle. These other people were people on the side here that had a full 100% remission. Not just a remission, I mean their cancer was gone.
Now we talked about before about cancer and location. Can you get into that? Because people see cancer as one thing.
Yes.
And the idea that was put to you is that's not really the way it works, right?
Yeah, so with conventional treatments, they always talk about the type of cancer. Doesn't matter where it is. Yeah. It's the type of cancer, and you go and develop a medicine, and this medicine will go after this type of cancer. Different chemos for different type of cancers. It's not one chemo does all cancers. It's very specific. This is kind of the opposite of that. So it's not the type of cancer, it's where the cancer is. So that's why the treatment is called SSI, site-specific immunotherapy. So if a person has any kind of cancer in the colon, you would give them the E. coli SSI because it ramps up the immune system in the colon. And so it doesn't matter what the issue is in the colon. Well, not always what the issue is, but it doesn't matter what kind of cancer it is. There's many other issues that you can have. There's many other issues you can have in the colon that the SSI will be helpful with as well, including Crohn's.
Yeah.
We've seen that big, and we've already, we're just finishing up the second trial for Crohn's, and we're seeing approximately 50% of the people go into remission. And it's not remission that they would talk about with normal Crohn's medicines. For Crohn's, they'll say you're in remission because your symptoms have gone right down with conventional treatments. You're still a very sick person with Crohn's. It's just that they've allowed you to become, you've managed it. So you can function, you can go out and work, you can be at home with your kids, you can do all these things. But if you do the test, you're still very sick with Crohn's. With the Q medicine, the Crohn's disappears. We're seeing approximately 50% of people. Now, it's possible it could come back later, but it's also very likely that if they take the SSI treatment again, it disappear again. So, and that is a sea change, because there currently is no medicine that can actually get rid of your Crohn's. It just, basically they're immune suppressants. They kill your immune system, so no longer does your immune system attack the body. Okay, and everybody knows that's not a good thing to kill your immune system, but they have no choice. With many of these autoimmune conditions, they just kill your immune system. And the problem is it leaves you as a sitting duck for other things. So you're trading one thing for another. And as you get older, you're going to come down with various other illnesses that you wouldn't have come down with if you hadn't taken that treatment. With acute medicine, you're ramping up the immune system so the body clears the problem in the colon, and that, that's what Crohn's is all about. It's an inflammation of the colon. It's the body attacking the colon, and that stops happening. So the Crohn's is gone.
So you joined forces with Dr. Gunn, and this is before COVID, so maybe describe your partnership and where you wanted it to go, and then how does COVID fit in, because that happens after.
Yeah, so basically it was all around cancer, because I had had cancer. I was very interested when Dr. Gunn told me what he was working on, and that I had really been part of it. I had taken that medicine while I was there at the center. So I was very interested, and I would see him once a week, and we'd have great talks, and he would describe everything, all the scientific stuff. I had gone around the world and talked to many doctors as well, and everything he said made total sense to me. I understood it 100%. And I thought, well, I sold my company. You should always invest in something, one, that you believe in, and something you're passionate about. And I made the decision right on the spot, this man, this doctor, is going to find the cure for cancer. I had cancer. I definitely want to be associated with somebody that's right on the cutting edge. What happens if my cancer comes back again many years down the road? I want to be right next to the information that's happening. And it just made sense. I felt very strongly that he is on the cutting edge, was going to find a cure for cancer. So I made the suggestion, do you need an investor? So I invested, and we started the company, and we developed the SSI treatments, and there were small trials done for various forms of cancer with success.
What kind of success numbers do you know?
There were some compassionate use trials done where we saw melanoma disappear.
Oh.
We saw pancreatic cancer disappear.
Wow.
Lung cancer. But once again, you have to pick your battles here, because any single trial is millions of dollars. So I'll get into that in a minute. But as we were doing these different small trials and compassionate use trials, one fellow who was taking it for his colon cancer actually gave some of his medicine to his nephew, Tyler Wilson, who had Crohn's. And he tried it. It's like there's almost no side effects to this medicine. Like all it is just to kill bacteria in a solution that makes it, how would I say, antiseptic, or makes it safe to take. Any medicine that's in a bottle, you have to assume people are going to put dirty needles in it. They shouldn't, but you have to assume that. that they reuse, and you know, they never should, but it has to be designed that what happens if a patient puts a dirty needle into it. So it has to kill that bacteria. So there's a standard solution that's in it. There's no mercury involved, but it's something that's been around for like 50 years, okay? And it's not formaldehyde, it's not any of those things.
I was going to say, so say what the difference is between the vaccine and how much safer this is for you because of the...
Yes, I know that they put a lot of crazy things in vaccines. I'm nervous myself, but was advised I should take my flu shot every year only because I had cancer in the past, and it's considered that I have a compromised immune system. So, you know, when you weigh out the balance of possible things, it's still better for me to take the flu vaccine. And I can tell you during this current COVID crisis that when they approve a vaccine, I will ask Dr. Gunn first which one is good, because he won't take it himself until he researches out which ones have done their full trials and have all the proper data. Not one that a president of a country has pushed through and approved because he gave the executive order, right? So, but in the SSI treatment, it's just standard, and I can't tell you what's in it right now. I could research it out later. I just know that it's safe. I know that it's safe, and I know that this has been around for 50 years. The SSI treatment itself has almost no side effects. Like many medicines, as you know, if you open up the leaflet, you know, it's that long. Even you see the ads on American TV where they, you know, have the elderly folks dancing in the daisies or whatever, and with their granddaughter, and then it shows the whole page of possible side effects. I mean, my God. With the Q treatment, it's almost no side effects. You know, it's possible that there could be somebody, maybe 1 out of 100,000, that could have a small allergic reaction or something, who is allergic to everything. But from what we've seen with the, there's been hundreds of people who have taken it, and even the medicines that have been related to this have a high safety profile. So that's why Dr. Gunn said, you know, we do this COVID trial. It may very likely that Health Canada will fast track it and not require it to do a second trial, because it already has a safety profile in things that it's been used for.
Where do you stand now in terms of development? What are you looking at, and how's that moving along? And I guess we look at pharmaceutical companies and get into that, and governments and...
Yes. So the SSI has been already used in an animal trial long before the pandemic was even heard of. Okay. And it was used for animals, specifically mice, and they were given viruses, lung-borne viruses in general. And they were given the SSI as a treatment in advance, so now their immune system ramped up. And then in the control group, you had mice that were given nothing. Yeah. But they were also given the lung-borne pathogen, and they got sick and many died, right? So the mice that were given the SSI treatment, none of them got sick. Huh. And we also did it in aged mice, which simulates aged persons who have a compromised immune system, and none of them got sick. And we have all that data. So where we stand with the trial is, when the pandemic came along, I asked Dr. Gunn, would this be helpful in the pandemic? And he said, absolutely. It builds your innate immune system. This is your first line of defense. It should be given to the elderly. It should be given to the people who are at high risk, people who have other conditions. And he, you know, the government announced different funding programs, and Q has applied for them, but it's a funny process when you get politics involved. And Q has asked for $18 million, and the government themselves have said they want a balanced program, not just vaccines. The government has given out many millions to the vaccine companies, to the pharma companies that are doing traditional vaccines. And we are part of the group for therapeutics, and Q has applied. It's spent hundreds of hours putting together the whole application. It's been in many meetings with the government. It's been on conference calls with the science people, but we have not heard anything. nor given any indication of whether it's going to be approved or denied. So it's kind of a very mysterious thing. It is you're dealing with a government where there's a political process. We have to believe that on something like this is nonpartisan and it's strictly based on the science. I can't tell you if decisions are being influenced in any other way. I don't know. I just know that Q is asking for $18 million to run the trial. There is close to 100% chance that it will work for COVID, but we won't know until we run the trial. Q is also going down the route of pharma companies. Now there's several pharma companies that are already in talks with Q to do licensing of the medicine for other conditions. And we've talked to those companies about them funding this trial, and they've all said, the government is providing funding for all of this. If you get turned down, we understand how this works and we'll be interested in talking with you. But we need to receive the no decision from the federal government first, and they're not giving it. So, the pharma companies are saying, well, if you get turned down, then we'll talk. And obviously, why should they put money in if the government's going to throw in $18 million, right?
So how long have you been in the sort of approval stage, and if it does get approved, how long is it going to be until you have it on, say, where people can use it?
Yeah, so basically it's been, I believe that Hal, he's the CEO of Q Biologics, he applied for the funding shortly after it was announced back in February or so. So it was likely March or the end of March when they were able to get the whole application done. So we're talking about April, May, June, July, August. It's 5 months. Now we're in the middle of September. So, we're getting a little concerned that they don't understand how this works. There's been high-level scientists that have, gotten involved in the conference calls. They've got the complete information. But there's also this mindset that, everybody is beating the drum for a vaccine. But we're really worried about that too, because vaccines will only be specific, likely, for specific mutations of the coronavirus. And the minute it mutates into something else, it's no longer any good. And can they now use that same technology and come out with one for the new strain? And are these strains coming faster than they can produce medicines for? Dr. Gunn's very concerned that this balanced approach that the government's talked about needs to be followed. Don't put all the eggs in the vaccine basket.
Yeah.
Like, invest money in some of these other things, like therapeutics, like what Q is working on, that can build your immune system. So it allows your innate immune system to stop it just as it's coming into your lungs. Because many of us, although we're trying to be careful, can you guarantee you're not going to be exposed? Even if you go to the supermarket and wear a mask. I mean, I've seen people with masks always adjusting their mask. And if somebody sneezed near you and it's on the outside of your mask and you're adjusting your mask, and now you rub your nose and do all these crazy things, have you just infected yourself? So even following procedures, can we guarantee we're going to be stopping the coronavirus with the Q treatment? If you get exposed to the coronavirus, we hopefully want to prove that the treatment will cause your immune system to kill it on the spot.
One last question before I go to Desta. Have you gone to your MP, and maybe you can give us your MP's name if you know it, and so we can tag him in the video?
It would be the MP for Vancouver, because Q Biologics is based in Vancouver.
Okay, maybe we'll tag that.
Well, my question is, it sounds like this is very dangerous for the pharmaceuticals, because it's not just that they want the vaccine, it's because the strains do mutate every single year. There is a different threat every year, so they make their billions and trillions of dollars yearly based on the fact that they get to make a new vaccine every year. So if you were to come along with this and this were to be the new thing, boosting everyone's immune system almost naturally, but at least without any side effects like all the fillers that they put in the vaccines, then I can't imagine why they would allow, even if you don't end up getting the funding from the Canadian government, I can't understand how they would not block you doing this, because if you can almost naturally strengthen everyone on Earth's immune system for a cheap price, there's no more vaccines ever needed. And since you hold the patent for this and they don't hold the patent, even if there's some money for them to be made for the distribution and manufacturing, I guess, that they would be doing for it, I guess, I don't know how that works, but I mean, but since they don't hold the patent, they are going to lose a ton of money. So what, have you heard anything about that, or has anyone come to tell you?
Well, that's great fodder for conspiracy theories, for sure, 100%. I can tell you that I do know that, you know, business being business, if there is a treatment for something that, I'm not saying it happens in Canada, we'll say that it happens in other countries, but unfortunately business being business is not always entirely ethical, moral, and even in some cases legal. I can tell you that sometimes medicines do get bought up by big pharma and they never see the light of day. I'm not saying it happens in Canada because we're Canadians, you know, I'm saying it happens somewhere else, but it does happen. And many people have asked about the Q treatment in general, like for Crohn's, for cancer. Same thing, right? What happens if it revolutionizes the way things are being treated and all of a sudden it's much cheaper? From a business point of view, isn't it a good business investment for a big pharma company to buy this up and just put it in the drawer, close it, and lock it? Yes, it is. It is good for business. But from my point of view, I've said, look, I went through cancer. I want to see these treatments go. And even if we, you know, I'm a major investor in Q, if we are going to write a deal with Q, say selling all of this to a big pharma, there will be a clause in there that says this has to see the light of day. And there would be a time limit. And there would be a rollback clause that would say, if within 3 years we don't see this on the pharmaceutical shelves, we are allowed to market our treatment that we sold to you. Because Dr. Gunn is a passionate doctor. This is his life's work. He believes in what he's doing. This is not a business thing for him strictly. Yes, if you believe in what you're doing and you're passionate, you can make money. But for him, the making money is after the concept of curing and helping people. Okay, so we've both agreed that there will be clauses written in that will guarantee these medicines get out there if Q is sold to a big pharma company or if its medicines are licensed or sold. So even though the companies that could possibly get this, it could hurt their own business. I guess if you can't beat them, join them. And many pharma companies will say, well, we don't want this company to get it, so we'll just buy it. We're going to take it to the next step, that not only will they just buy it, they have to get it out there. Because there is a real huge motivation to not put it out there. It's the same when you get into all these other things like using water for fuel or, you know, free energy, all of these things. There's motivation to leave the existing status quo the same. There's huge business motivation. So there has to be some other reason why it's driven. And it's the same with this medicine. It works. I've seen people cured of their cancer. I've seen many people with Crohn's has disappeared. But is it a good business decision for a company to buy it and get involved and watch their existing medicine go down like this? You know? So, you know, as long as I'm around, as long as Dr. Gunn is around, we will ensure that any deal that's being made will make sure that the medicine gets out there.
I have a sort of a small related question to that, and that's how much power you have. Say the government doesn't give you the $18 million, that door is shut.
For the COVID trial.
And then you have to go to the pharmaceuticals because that's all you got left. Are they going to do that kind of negotiation? Because if they want to put it in the drawer, they just say,
right,
we're not going to sign your contract.
Right. I can give you a parallel example to this. When I had my company London Telecom, Primus Canada made a deal with us to buy the company.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of money. And you know, all of my people that I had were very loyal people. All the employees, we had roughly 100. And you know, a lot of people would come in the evenings, they'd come in on weekends, and super loyal. I mean, even at 5 o'clock, we'd have to push them out the door, especially in the computer department. They loved their work. when I had the opportunity to sell it, I made Primus agree that nobody could be fired for 1 year. Sorry, guys. And they were furious because what they wanted to do was consolidate our company with theirs and get rid of all our people. And I said, well, you can get rid of them, but not for a year. I want to make sure everybody has a chance to spend the proper amount of time to find another job. Okay, now they still have about 5 of original employees, but they did get rid of everybody after the year. So they were first, they said, you can't tell us what to do when we get your company. I said, well, then don't buy the company. You know, these are people. The only reason I'm getting what I'm getting from you is because of these people. Yeah. So I'm not going to leave them high and dry. Yeah. You know, some of these people are very specialized. It could take them up to a year to get another job or whatever. So they weren't happy, but they reluctantly signed, and they honored the deal. It would be the same with the pharma. I'm sure that it will be the same discussions that they'll say, you can't tell us what to do. Once you get your check, it's ours, and you can't tell us. Well, don't buy it then. You know, that would be my response. If you want it, you've got to agree to our terms. This medicine has to get out there. Period.
At least you're a business guy who's gone through it once before.
Yeah, yeah, and unfortunately, you know, in business it can be very brutal. Business decisions are cold, and it can involve people losing their lives. And that is the case with medicines. And I can tell you that I've read many accounts of decisions that are made that are not correct for people. They may be correct for the shareholders of the company and the people that are getting the bags of money as the company's sold, but the people become the pawns and suffer as a result. And I have to be able to sleep at night, and it's a pillow test. Yeah. And you know, when Q Biologics sold, you know, we'll do not too badly, or the treatments, but I could not in good conscience take that money knowing that this treatment will never see the light of day. What? So I have this big bag of money and I get to do all these things and all these other people are suffering? No, no way. So I will not take the money myself until I know, guaranteed, that this treatment will get out there.
I have a couple more questions. So this is going through the Canadian government because of COVID. This is like a COVID trial?
Yes.
So is it still possible if they do say no to the COVID trial, could you still put it through as either an upper respiratory system trial or a cancer trial, or like can you, because it cures so many things and it's working on so many different levels, is it possible to go and reapply for whatever you're doing in a different way?
Yeah, through the government, you know, it's hard to get funding generally. However, the COVID thing opened up the public purse big time. So currently, with the money being handed out to companies, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's available. But if they don't approve us, it's true, the other pharma companies that are talking to us about licensing, they would now go down this route of not only for COVID, but for other things. And I think, you know, it could be tempered by the fact that, gosh, this may kill our business. But what ultimately will drive at least one of the companies is the fact that they don't want the other guy to get it. Okay.
And I do have I don't know if this, well, I think it's true. I read it in one article at least, but another example is I think it was Hilton, the Hilton hotel chain, when Airbnb came out and everyone stopped going and paying full price to go to hotels because there was no way for the big hotel companies to be able to do anything. They ended up buying, I think it was like $500 million worth of shares in Airbnb. Oh. So the only way for them to, you know, if you can't beat them, join them, right? So that would be a reason for the pharmaceutical companies to say, you know, just like you said, like we'll go with them because at least we'll make some money, even though this might kill other things, because otherwise we're out of it altogether and we get nothing from it.
Yes, and I can tell you also, every single investor that's invested in Q Biologics have asked me the same question. Every single one. Can you guarantee me that this treatment is going to get out there if, in fact, a big pharma company buys the company or buys that specific treatment? Everybody that's invested is investing in the company because they believe in what Q is doing. It's not just because it's just strictly a business investment. I mean, there's many business investments you can get involved into, and it's totally non-emotional, and it's just a return on your money. Who cares about the company? Most don't. In this case, every single investor cares about what Q is doing and sees this as cutting edge and sees this, that this is going to help millions of people, not just for the COVID, but the current Crohn's trial that's going on, the different cancer trials that are going on. They desperately want to see, the state of art for medicine to move forward. It seems that with cancer, it's painfully slow, especially with cancer. And we all have people in our family circle that have had that scourge, including myself, of course. So people that have money have put it in this. It's not just a business investment. They're investing their energy. They're almost like their positive energy in this company, and they want to see it actually out there treating people.
I guess my maybe last question is, so can you invest in other countries? So if it doesn't pass in Canada, instead of going directly to the pharmaceuticals, is there other countries that can, because I always hear there's like Eastern European countries that a lot of cancer doctors actually move out of, and as well as Mexico, that a lot of cancer doctors that are trying to get treatments approved in the States can't, so they end up going to different countries to try to get whatever drugs they're working on approved in those countries, and then they can't come back to the States basically, but they end up working in South American or Eastern European countries that they'll back their work or whatever. Is that even?
Yeah, that's possible. It makes it more and more logistically complicated and hard. It's always best to start in your own country first and then fan out, because the layers of complexity increase. But if it's the only way, then you have to do it. For example, around the COVID here, there are other countries that are giving grants for other countries' companies to invest. For example, some of the smaller countries don't even have pharma companies, okay? But they want to see their people helped. So they are offering money to foreign companies. Now we are going down that road as well to search for funding internationally. But this is a sea change. It's funny because like I say, this started in the late 1800s, and what's old is new again. This is a treatment that was originally discovered way back then, and then in the meantime, all these other things have come into being, which are huge. But here's this thing kind of waving its hand, and it's almost like existing. The paradigm is trying to shut it out. A lot of people are not willing to actually look at cutting edge ideas, even though they say they are. We hope the government's not like that.
Beautiful.
If people want to get more information or take a look at what's going on, is there some links that they can link into?
Yeah. The company name is QU Biologics, and the website, you just add .com on the end. QU, the letter Q, the letter U, and then biologics.com. And everything is on that website.
We'll link everything in.
Okay, and if they want to contact you, Rob Freeman, where do they... If they got questions, personal questions, or testimonials, or
they could contact me at rob22924@gmail.com.
Okay, wonderful. That's it, and thanks everybody for listening. And hopefully this moves along, and we get a solution to a lot of problems, not just COVID, but a lot of issues. Because I know people who have Crohn's disease and other issues, and it's very encouraging to hear that somebody's on the leading edge and may have a solution to a lot of problems that we're facing right at the moment.
Yes, and it comes down to money, and money is not always easy to come by.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you so much.